This is a clip from the Red Cow Arcade podcast.
Well, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, yeah?
It did
That's
come
the
out.
thing. That was the event.
That's the event, so we got to talk about it. Yeah, so I think we were going into this with mixed, like, like, how's it, this was the project that when Disney bought Star Wars, it seemed obvious that they would do something with Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan again, and then it would be this time frame, because it just seems like it's really the only time you would do it, because he's now age appropriate for that in-between time.
Yes. And yeah, it seemed, especially, like after all these Disney Plus shows, after Moon Knight, because, the Marvel plays into the Star Wars a little, because you're just like, you're fatigued about some Marvel things. Moon Knight just happened, and I was down on everything.
Yeah.
Maybe I still am.
I'm not especially up. But
I'm not especially up, but it's just like, there's trepidation. I started to, but Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi has always been entertaining. It's always been, he's owning it. He's always owned it. He's always been having fun with it. He's almost more Obi-Wan than Alec McGinnis ever was. And so, screen time at least.
Yeah. I even like he didn't really do anything in Phantom Menace, and he's good in that as a young energetic Obi-Wan.
Yeah, well, the Phantom Menace, he's like kind of pissed off. I love that. I actually kind of love that, where he's just like, "What are you doing with this kid? What the fuck?"
with very limited writing, he took Obi-Wan on a little bit of a journey in those prequels.
Yeah.
And I think like probably most Star Wars fans enjoyed in the opening pilot for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. They did a prequels supercut, like one of these kind of like trilogy trailers. Like it was like a last time on the prequels kind of a thing, and it was pretty well put together, and it gives you a sense too for like anything that they put in here is probably going to be relevant to the plot. Like
one thing about that previously on is I think it really shows that Phantom Menace looks the best because it's like the film, like the colors in their faces are so much warmer and deeper. And then when they switch to like Attack of the Clones and like the digital brown, it's like so much worse.
It felt like they were suddenly cutting to like some like bad TV series that like bridged the gap or something. Yeah. 35 mil. There's no accounting for 35 mil.
Yeah, especially the way they color, like it was like the color grading, like it's either minimal or it was a different time because it's just more warm and rich. Because when they film a lot of things on film nowadays, and it still looks like digital dreck,
Right. Yeah.
So there's just something like more pure about it.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like they did little to no color grading at that time. 1999, they would have done probably none.
Yeah.
Push or pull a stop, when they processed it. And so that was cool.
And I also do like Obi-Wan wakes up from the nightmare of the prequels too. So fuck these movies.
All the fucking memes and shit. There was you know what? That occurred to me while I was watching it, where I was like, in the supercut, they don't need to have him saying, "I have the high ground," but they left it in.
They left it in, but you know what? Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Somebody knew what they were doing when they left that thing in. Somebody was being a smartass. Because all you need to do is say, "It's over, Anakin," and then have him cut him.
Yeah.
But no, high ground was left in there. So
ridiculous. I love it.
But when I saw the trailers, I wasn't particularly hyped. And yet, there's kind of like, there is a lot of potential for this concept. I think I've just been struggling with like, is it a movie? Is it a show? Is it a movie or is it a show? What is it? What is the right format for this story? And what is that story? Because there's a problem with all of these Marvel and Star Wars shows, which is like, do you have a story to tell? Or do you have to make a movie and now you have to come up with a story to tell? And that's, and look, everybody's got a job, and there have been lots of wonderful projects that have come up because somebody had an assignment.
No.
But
Well, I mean, I feel
like
like Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, they always write themselves into corners and they have to solve it. It's a similar thing where it's like, okay, we have to make this keep going, whether we like it or not. So we have to solve for something.
But the new Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars, has, I think, like a serious problem with making projects that have no stories. Or like there's no reason for them existing. The example I've always provided was like, honestly, I could say it about almost everything at this point, except for the Mando and Boba Fett shows, and maybe even like Boba Fett. It'd be easy to say like, why does this exist? But, the sequel trilogy, like it's a mystery why it exists outside of like, we wanted to make a few more movies. There's no one had a story they wanted to tell there, clearly. Rian Johnson had some ideas, but he didn't. There was still only one movie, and it was in the he did it at the expense of the potential for some other story. So there's Then
the next movie was almost like destroying The Last Jedi. So like, I think you could have made a good sequel to The Last Jedi, and that movie was not it.
Right.
So it was just it was J.J. Abrams saying fuck it.
Like, if you were watching the sequel trilogy, are you watching the redemption of Kylo Ren or the fate of Kylo Ren? Like, what's the story? What is whereas like the prequels, say what you will about them, they have every reason to exist. That is like the fall of Darth Vader is the story. The loss of a friendship and the loss of great potential and blah blah blah.
Yeah, the loss of
the fall of the Jedi
Republic.
Order.
Yeah, the loss of a republic, the rise of an empire. It's like, there's a lot of things going on there.
In concept, it should be the greatest Star Wars story ever told. And then the sequel, the original trilogy, is the redemption of the galaxy, and So you would need something like that, something of that weight to justify a sequel trilogy, and they didn't even come anywhere close to that. Like just not even in the orbit. But that's not the only time that they fucked that up. Like the Solo movie is another really good example of like what is it? Like, because if it's like, oh, it's about Han Solo learning to it's about Han Solo no. It's like
he gathers like his gun and like Chewbacca. It's like it is kind of like a fetch quest for.
Yeah, anything you ever could have inferred logistically about Han Solo will be in a film.
It's a Kessel Run. There you go. He gathers them
Han Solo's arc was in the original trilogy.
Yeah,
but it's from scoundrel to hero. And so what's this movie? Well, does he start out as an asshole and then he's a good guy at the end? Like, well, you can't do that because he needs to be a scoundrel when we find him. He was like, well, I don't want to watch an asshole the whole movie. All right, I'll make him like kind of like a light asshole. How about that? The movie has no purpose, and I think Rogue One is sort of the same. Like, what is the point of this movie?
Yeah, like Rogue One, like that was the first one where it felt like people just playing with Star Wars toys, especially the third act where it's like, let's make the Star Destroyers. And I loved it. It was. I think the third act is fun. It's great to see all them play with those Star Wars toys in a big loud battle. It's great. But yeah, the reason for existing is there's none.
So then that brings us to Kenobi, where you're like, well, wait, Kenobi more so than the Mando stuff, certainly because it's more of a direct extension of the movies than that. Whereas the Mando stuff gets to kind of completely do its own thing, and it's just not bogged down by.
It's like a side story until it's not.
Until it's not, but yeah, this is like last time on Star Wars, and it shows clips from the movies. And there's like some jump. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. This is like part of the. But Obi-Wan has been a really significant character in these movies, but he's only ever been a supporting character for Skywalkers. this is the first time he's the main character. And when you think about it, you're like, we've never seen this period of time with him, and it probably is. If ever there was the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi's life, it probably would be something like in this period of time.
Yeah, because he's a different character when we leave him in Revenge of the Sith, and from when we see him in A New Hope, he's the wise mystic monk, and then he's whatever he is in the prequels. And so there is a lot of growth to happen between those 2 points.
Yeah, it can't be 20 inconsequential years, of a guy of a former warrior, a former war general Jedi who can't be seen, can't be found. If he's found, the mission goes tits up.
Yeah. I think that's really fascinating, and I love the beginning of the series. I thought the first episode was really good. Like I was like really hopeful in that first episode. I started to see things I didn't quite like in the second. There's some in the first episode that were like, oh, it's kind of concerning, but
I haven't seen enough Rebels to know how strongly I feel this way. But there's something about the Inquisitors that it feels a little bit like a kind of a too much of a contrivance for me to be like, all right, like Vader probably didn't personally kill all of the Jedi because there were a lot of Jedi. So there were like these mini Vaders and they did a lot of it, and they're basically Sith Lords. I'm like, so there's more Sith Lords walking around that I didn't know about?
Yeah, we have some Hot Topic rejects that are going around. And it kind of beggars belief because in like New Hope, that was the thing. It's like, oh, the Jedi are an ancient religion, and you're a relic, you're a dinosaur, Darth Vader, but if there's mini Darth Vaders running around all the time, it's weird. It doesn't make sense.
I've been hearing.
I don't want to nitpick those things because I don't know. It feels like. Yeah, that's the lore. That's the lore. That's what it should be.
Stories ought to make sense. And be consistent with themselves, because if you care about them, then you're tracking details, and details are what constitute a character and constitute a set of circumstances. And so, playing too fast and loose with the continuity to tell a better story is like, are you sure you're not going to, sacrifice something important in the. And we'll get into more of that, because the show plays in dangerous territory of like, you could be upending your own continuity kind of disruptively. But something that I'm coming to expect with, or to accept with these series is, if they were movies, if they were 2-hour movies, they would have to fly by. Every scene would be really economic, and at least with the shows, you can have these kind of quiet, deliberative character type stuff. And then because of the format of like, it's got to be 6 episodes and each one's an hour, you have to like deal with a little bit of chuffa. Mm-hmm. And maybe like that's the price of admission. Maybe like.
Well, yeah, and that's what I enjoyed about the first episode was it was a little bit slow moving. I liked seeing like Obi-Wan as just like a miner basically mining like sushi out of a carcass or whatever he's doing. It's just like being dirty and just basic and common and blending in. And I liked the interactions with him and Uncle Owen and like the kind of tensions. I like the small stake stuff. I like the things where it's just like it adds a lot. Like it kills him that he can't interact with Luke more because he probably sees Anakin in Luke, and in all those little moments. And Owen is perfect. He was from the prequels, right? He was in the prequels.
Joel Egerton, and he's like a real actor that's in real things. And I think Lucas cast him when he was pretty young, but he's gone on to have a big career. And so like. Yeah, it's funny. Like a lot of the Lucas casting has worked out really well.
It's all held up.
It's all these like new Disney people like Reva and stuff who are like, these seem like weak actors. Like,
yeah, Reva's the weakest link because she talks like she's doing a big boy voice, like mean voice. It's like when my son is trying to pretend to be Bowser. I don't buy it. It sounds fake. It sounds false, and she's, I don't know. Like as a minor, mini boss to Darth Vader, maybe it's fine, but if they elevate her more than that, I might be. I don't know. It might not be great.
Sandwiching a new character into the drama that already exists, that has already been established by the story, feels kind of like you're cheating the audience a little bit.
Yeah.
Like don't disrupt the primary tension, please, between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And that was a surprise to me too. I figured that within 10 years he would have known that Anakin survived.
Yeah, but it was I thought that was a really effective part when he learns that Anakin Skywalker, which
Yeah. No,
I
it
didn't know
worked.
was common knowledge to people like Riva, but you
Where
never
he like
know.
I guess I listened to that Star Wars theory guy because he goes deep, but he was saying like he would have known. He saw the hologram in Revenge of the Sith where he's like, "You are Darth Vader," so he knew the name. So he must not have. Maybe being in the Outer Rim, he just wouldn't have heard what's going on with the Empire.
Maybe.
He's just totally remote from it all.
Yeah, maybe. But that was a great moment because I mean, Ewan McGregor's. I think he's killing it. I think
Yeah.
he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Just like the prequels, he's putting everything into it, and so like it was gut wrenching when you saw the moment, and then it cuts to Anakin in the tank, and it's just like
Yeah, it was like really haunting.
it's haunting and it was powerful. I thought those were really great moments.
Because Darth Vader, and you also remember the last time that Hayden Christensen was put in that suit, and that was haunting. And yeah, it's like really, it's working. It's like, but keep on that because that's what we're gonna care about. But yeah, there's obviously we're all gonna be hung up on like, but in A New Hope, it really seemed like this, like
Yeah, I think I would rather explore. The thing is, like, I'd rather explore that relationship than whatever's happening with Riva.
constrained.
With the Leia stuff doesn't exactly work. It's like, oh, we need another gruff warrior to look after a cute kid, like the Mandalorian, like the Bad Batch. Like, it's like, okay, we've seen this before. And like, some things with Leia, I think the young Leia work in some ways. Like I think it's kind of cute that she has her little like robot droid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of my kids, but some of the lines they give her are just like, I don't know. It's like what you would give adult Leia, but you gave it to a 8-year-old child, and so it doesn't quite work.
And then they literally have him saying like, "You don't sound like a kid." She's like, "Yes, well, I was written by an idiot."
Yeah, it's written by a millennial.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that we get to see Alderaan because that seems.
Oh yeah,
that's
and
like
Jimmy
a big.
Smits.
Yeah, and that's kind of a big missing piece of the narrative puzzle, as it currently stood, where you're like, I'm supposed to care about this planet that blew up, and I've never been to it, and I don't even have a clue. Like, we know so much about what Luke was experiencing on Tatooine, and we know really very little about Leia's upbringing, at least in the movies and stuff. So I thought that was cool, and it was a consequence of the fact that they kind of, I think, figured out later that Leia would be Luke's sister. But it did always leave this plot gap of like, so why did Obi-Wan care about the boy so much more? They're twins. They're literally twins. So it's cool. It's cool that this does repair a little bit of that, where it's like, well, he was assigned to the boy.
Yeah.
But if the girl needed him, he would be there. And even though
So
it would be a huge risk.
yeah, I did kind of like all that stuff, and I like Jimmy Smits. I like the scenes with him and Leia. It was sweet. It warmed my heart. That first episode, I feel like, had a great pace to it.
Yeah.
And then you get to like the weird. Everyone's talking about the weird slow chase scenes, and it's like, and I don't blame them because they're weird. They're weirdly edited, and
Yeah, so it's Leia in two different circumstances. Once she's running away from Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the other time she's running away from Obi-Wan, and both times she's not running particularly fast, and the adults are chasing after her,
like banging on like branches, like comically.
Yeah, like doing. It's a really really odd, and
I feel like you could tighten the editing just a little bit and it would solve some of that awkwardness, but
yeah, and if you can't for some reason, just cut it all out because none of it. I don't need to see them running after her for
and
very long.
the editor is Kelly Dixon from Breaking Bad.
Oh shit!
So I don't understand this.
Very strange. Yeah, they're like, leave it all in, please. We need every bit of it. Yeah, it's almost like it like harms my like trust in the series where I'm like, nobody caught how stupid, because everybody's talking about how stupid those two scenes look. So you made the same mistake twice. And it makes me wonder, I'm like, is it a consequence of being on the volume? You know, this kind of small soundstage that actually looks really large and you don't have a lot of space to run? Is that what's
Run
going on?
around in circles. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was like so would it be in that forest? Would they be running in the volume in that?
I think so.
I really?
Yeah, I think so.
I
That's some 3D environment fucking
don't know.
forest you're looking at there.
Shit, it looks great. I mean, it looks great. Like, there's no like special effect in these series that ever looks. The special effects in the Star Wars TV shows, I have to say, are better than the Marvel.
Yeah.
Way better. I never think about it in the Star Wars, but the Marvel, I'm like,
Yeah, it's
something's
true.
off. Something's off.
Now that we have a larger sample size, I have to say that, like, on average, the Star Wars shows are better than the Marvel shows.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I mean, if you take all of the shows, almost none of them, most of them, I'm like looking forward to the next episode. I'm looking forward to seeing what you know, even if I'm not like fully in, I'm like, oh, I do want to see what happens next. The only time that was like decidedly untrue was Moon Knight. I was like, I can barely crawl through this thing.
That was awful.
And Loki at times. There was like a couple of weeks where I was like, do I have to do Loki again?
Yeah.
Actually, you know, I'm not going to go as far as to say I like that last episode with Kang or whatever, but it was so, by that point, it was so stupid. I was like kind of back in it.
Yeah. The first and the last episodes were the best of that series, at least.
The rest of them, Captain Falcon and
Captain Falcon.
Falcon
Punch.
I looked forward to them each week, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I like these Star Wars shows. I do, even when they're not perfect. I've like, has there ever been a Star Wars episode, like any Star Wars episode, where you're like, wow, that was like a really shitty episode of TV?
I mean, I don't know.
Maybe like one of the Boba Fett's was not like.
Yeah, it's like
okay,
when
the bike race.
The slow chase scene. They always did the slow chase scenes.
I actually do think that you know what? Now that we're thinking about the bike chase, I think it might be the volume. That's the problem. Like, you don't want to be doing chase scenes on the volume.
Yeah, it's and I'm kind of sick of chase scenes and stuff, because if you watch like these Rebel shows and there's chase scenes all over, it's like I just don't. I'm done with these.
Oh yeah, and when I posed that question about like, have you ever seen a shitty episode of Star Wars? I'm not talking about animated. I've seen 27 of them.
Every single episode of The Bad Batch.
Yeah, I've seen plenty.
Literally The Bad Batch.
So yeah, I look forward to the rest. I expect that there will be a fair amount of stuff where I'm like, ugh, but I think the trajectory is good, and if they can kind of bring this Vader Obi-Wan thing home, yeah,
I have a lot of misgivings just because of the screen time of like the Inquisitors and Reva have not been great, and and Leia stuff doesn't quite work, so I hope they ditch it, or at least like they conclude it. You know, they conclude it in the next episode, and then we can move on.
This would be plenty.
Yeah, that would
like,
be plenty.
We could be done.
We can be done. I've seen enough, and then we can move on.
Yeah.
So and again, yes, I'm very much looking forward to what Ewan McGregor does with this and where it goes. I'm
so glad he was game. You know, I guess we take it for granted that he would even say yes to a thing like this at this point.
You never know. You never know what people think they're too good for, and
right.
But it seems like everybody's having fun with this. So
yeah, hate it. Yeah, I keep my YouTube feed keeps showing me Hayden Christensen interviews about it, and he's like a really like mature, upstanding young man now. He's like,
Come a long way from the
really
yellow-dyed interviews that you made fun of.
Just hang in there, and eventually everybody will like you as Darth Vader. And I'm excited to be Darth Vader yet again. He just seems like a really good guy. He's like, oh yeah, I remember 20 years ago, there's a guy named Thomas who used to hand us these lightsabers. Yeah, Thomas, that's right. Yeah, he just seems swell. I would like to be friends with Hayden Christensen. Who's the asshole now? Making fun of him.
Do you think he's seen your cartoon?
I think so. I feel convinced of it. And it's funny, when we made our JJ one, man, that really, like, if our whole thing was like, let's paint him as somebody who has a decent vision for this, who hates the prequels, who sees them for what they are, like, yeah, that's just not how things panned out.
No.
Like, he just made something that was much worse than the prequels.
I think so. Story poor.
Yeah, story poor. Yeah, it turns out that's really the only thing worse than making something poorly executed is something poorly conceived.
Yes.
Because you can't execute on something that's poorly conceived. Because there's some dazzlement in that sequel trilogy, and it's not worth a damn.
No. It's like you can throw it away.
Yep. Special effect without a story is a pretty boring thing.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.